CXO Community.
Thanks, Avi. I just wanted to take a second to personally thank each and every one of you for the support, our customers and our partners for the support of CheckPoint over the years. We had a tremendous year again in 2011. And thank you once again, personally, for myself, for all the dedication and support you've given us. We've got a tremendous agenda here. Please take advantage. It's not often that we're able to get all the people from R&D here in one place, so make sure you get an opportunity to speak to those individuals. And also, I'd love you to mark on your calendars right now, next year, April 24th through the 26th, the CPX in our nation's capital. So anyway, have a great show, and thanks for coming.
And now, something new we haven't done in the previous CPX. It's my pleasure now to welcome also those who unfortunately could not join us here in person to participate in a very special webcast that we have organized. This webcast is going to allow us to share our strategy and vision, both with those of you who are here in the room and also those who are joining us online. And who better than to present our strategy and our vision and to introduce our new solutions than the CheckPoint Chairman, Founder, and CEO, Mr. Gil Shwed.
Good morning, everyone, and it's really a pleasure having you all here. I'm very, very glad to be here in Orlando and to have everyone attend our conference today. And there's many things I want to discuss today. A lot about sharing some new innovations and some new ideas that we want to open up. So first, welcome everyone here in Orlando, and welcome all of us that are joining us from many, many different countries around the world to hear the new announcements for today. Before I start, I also want to thank all our sponsors. We have here a very nice group of sponsors that have been working and supporting CheckPoint for many years and from many different places that are sponsoring this event and are contributing to its success. And I think we'll see them here outside and we'll hear more from them. But one thing that we all share in common between us and our sponsors here is our daily fight and daily attempt to improve the world's security, especially the internet security. And that's the main subject, obviously, that I'm going to discuss in my presentation today. And as we look into that, what we're all doing, since I've started CheckPoint 19 years ago, in 1993, internet security became from a sort of esoteric subject that I had to convince people that will exist, and actually I had mainly to convince people that the internet will exist. Internet security became a pretty big market, and it was the number one priority to those who connected to the internet 19 years ago, and still is today a number one item for people who connect to the internet. And if we look at some statistics here, we see that security does remain a top priority. We see that enterprises all around the world and individuals keep spending more and more, and you see here that just in the last few years, revenues of IT security vendors grew to almost $30 billion, about a 10% growth just in the past year alone. But that's not the main issue. It's not just the amount of spending. The main challenge is what's going on with our threat landscape and our security landscape. And what we've seen in the past year or two is the tide of new security attacks. It's not new, it continues a trend of almost 20 years, but the last few years have been extremely interesting and challenging from the landscape perspective that we've seen, and I'm not going to dive too much into that. You'll see much more in that on 2 or 3 more presentations in the rest of the day, but just to give you some simple data points that we've collected. 600% growth in the amount of malware detected between 2007 to 2011. That's huge. We can say, but we are at enterprises, we are using good tools, and we won't be invested so much around that. And you know, bots, these small agents that infect our computers and communicate with their command and control and can send our data, can create attacks, can form a lot of interesting things. So these bots, one of the latest threats, 82% of enterprises experienced a bot attack in the past year. That means that computers within the enterprise were infected by a bot operated by some malware operator across the globe. That's not a small amount, and that shows how serious is the risk. But there are some good news. For example, another study done recently found out and analyzed many of these breaches, but 97 of these breaches could have been avoidable with following up simple controls and using security the right way. So as we see that, and we see that risks are rising, attacks are real, and we read about it every day in the newspapers, and obviously there's a lot of technology and a lot of things we can do. What's the natural reaction? The natural reaction would be, let's add more security. And I think that's what many of us and many of your customers have been doing the last few years. We pile up more appliances, more security systems, more vendors, and we start to have a very, very robust, very sophisticated security system. And then we ask ourselves, does that really work? Is it effective? Anybody here that thinks that security has become much more effective the last 2 years? Raise your hand. Anyone think that security doesn't become more effective? Anyone who doesn't think? So maybe we should think more. But that depends, obviously, the answer to that. But you can see in this survey that involves almost 10,000 C-level people in charge of IT security. They actually felt 12% less confidence in their security effectiveness, not more confidence in the level of security. And of course, there's many reasons for that. One of them is the fact that with so much complication and so much sophistication, it's really harder to see the forest for the trees. We have so many internal systems that we have to manage, we have so many things to worry about, and we actually stopped understanding if we're actually effective or not, and if we are avoiding the real risks or not. If our biggest project for next year is not going to avoid the next few degrees, or it's just an upgrade that we have to do anyways. And that's a big problem, and we don't even have the data to show us that. So what do we need to do? We need to think a little bit about that. So first, one thought that I'd like to share is that just adding technologies is not enough. And I think I've introduced some of these concepts more than a year ago. In order to achieve good security, we first need to make things simple and controllable. We need to continue and consolidate. Not a single system and not a single vendor can solve all our challenges and can fight all the threats, but we need to aim to make security more consolidated and keep it as simple as possible. Simple equals effective. Controllable equals even more effective in trying to achieve what we are. And by the way, we see that the data from customers actually also supports that. 62% of organizations also prefer to have suites of security solutions rather than individual point products. But even that is still not enough. We need to start to look at things beyond just how many products we use and which products we use. We need to start thinking from the high-level perspective. What's our security policies, and adopt practical security policies. Practical security policies means that they are very relevant to our business and to the assets that we're trying to protect and enable. They need to be clear to the people. People are a very important part of it. When you analyze almost every attack, we see a human element. It's maybe a person that's made a simple mistake, like bringing personal equipment from home. It may be people that were fooled through a very sophisticated social engineering attack. It may be people that just didn't know what they're supposed to send or not send. And in rare cases, even people that deliberately did things against the security policy. So people, both the IT people, but also every employee in the company needs to have some level of engagement in the solution. And at the end of that, we need to have effective technology to deal with our security challenges. And that concept, I'm sure that you've all heard about, we call that 3D security, how to create a three-dimensional environment for IT security. But we still ask ourselves, what's the next innovation? Let's remember, I'm here on this stage representing CheckPoint. We've been leading in security technology and security innovation for 19 years. We're actually into our 20th years right now. What can we do? How can we innovate more? Not just improve what we have, not just add a little bit, but can we think about innovative ideas that can make security much more effective? And that was our challenge for the year. And that's the first thing that I'm going to talk about today. So first, let me start with a description, with a story. This is a story about a well-known attack that happened in 2001. Actually, it didn't happen in 2001, it was revealed in 2001. In that case, more than 70 victims in 14 countries suffered from that attack. And when I'm saying 70 victims, I don't mean one person with a computer at home. I mean major corporation, state-owned infrastructure corporation. I mean government agencies, organizations that involve hundreds of thousands of people, and organizations that actually invest a lot in security. They were the victims of that. And interestingly enough, as I mentioned, it didn't happen in 2011. It was discovered in 2011. Actually, it started in 2006 and lasted more than 5 years. And all organizations, all 70 victims that we know about here, were breached by a bot, a small agent sitting in their system, or multiple bots like that, sending confidential data of the organization through to a remote destination. And again, for 5 years, 70 organizations, that's pretty bad. Finally, that was discovered, research, and you can see some of the findings here. But what could we have done better to avoid this kind of an attack and avoid future attacks like that? How can we make sure that even if somebody crafts very, very sophisticated attacks, we'll fight it in a better way? And I think one of the main challenges here stems from the fact that we don't fight it together. Actually, each organization, each company have their own security infrastructure, tons of attacks, tens of thousands of, actually, in many cases, millions of attempts to attack the infrastructure that we see every month. We see them individually. Most organizations don't have the resources, the sophistication, the tools to even analyze and understand if they're really attacked or not really attacked. Some organizations, if the attack is really damaging, they'll find the damage and they know that they were attacked, and I mean, we have no choice to actually solve the problem and to stop the attack. But there is really zero collaboration. And let's think about a better way to do that when we don't work in an isolated manner. And actually, when we look at all attacks, no single attack is against a single organization. A single attack usually attacks thousands, usually tens of thousands of organizations. In some of them it's successful, in some of them it's unsuccessful. And what would happen if one organization would detect it? Can't we just tell all the other organizations that here is an attack, just block it? And that's, I think, one of the sources for our future changes in IT security infrastructure and for innovation. How do we unite our forces? And if this small organization here in the middle detects an attack, detects a communication to a new bot address through many different means, can't they share the information and make the rest of the world collaborate together and stop that attack right away? And the principles here are very simple. We've heard about collaboration. Every organization, each organization can detect an attack, and the attack can be detected by dedicated system, but it can also be detected by our regular security gateways, the good old firewall gateways. They'll detect an attack, they'll share that information into a global network, and everyone else in the world will get a message, will get the information of how to block that immediately, not after 2 months, not after 2 weeks. In most cases, why can't we do that in a matter of minutes? And I think the idea sounds simple, and collaboration, as we know, is a very hot subject in the internet. And that's what we want to make real, and that's the major innovation and the major introduction that I want to introduce today. And we call that Threat Cloud. It's a global collaboration to fight new threats. So how does it work? How does CheckPoint Threat Cloud work? We're going to have many, many different sensors around the world. They can be, again, sophisticated, dedicated sensors that we've put over the internet, but it can actually be every single gateway that's using our product, every single gateway that one of you run. You can choose to participate in the Threat Cloud and collect information, and what we'll see is that once we notice an attack, once we notice a new attack pattern, the gateway can automatically, again, if the customer chooses to do so, will share that information back. The cloud will process the information, and the Threat Cloud will update tens of thousands of gateways that participate, and will reach global collaboration on threat information that will immediately stop new attacks. That can be much more effective, and it's very, very doable, but it requires us to work together. And that's what the CheckPoint Threat Cloud is aiming to do. Just so you can see what we've collected in the Threat Cloud so far, and we've just started, today we have on the Threat Cloud over 250 million IP addresses in the world that are mapped into bad addresses that are used as command and control addresses for bots, for example, into white addresses. These are addresses that we've analyzed and determined that are actually innocent. And we have over 4.5 million malware signatures, over 300,000 malware-infested sites. So if someone is trying to access that site, we know that that site, whether it knows about it or not, can send malware back, and by simple user mistakes can download malware into their computer. And that's the largest database, knowledge base about security as far as we know today that's in the world, that's compiled with many, many sources, but the most important, that this database keeps updated in real time, daily, and we see 50,000 new threats identifiers that we add to that database every single day. And that's the Threat Cloud. Now, you can say that's a very nice vision, and let's all start working about that, but this is not just a vision. Threat Cloud is now. Threat Cloud is actually available starting today, and is part of our latest software release that we're releasing today, and that's called R75.40. That's the latest software release, available to all of us starting today. So what else is in R75.40? And so we start by adding more security. So R75.40, the key feature, at least on the left side of this slide, is the global collaboration to fight new threats. But there is more. We also have new technologies to block new attacks, and I'll talk about that in a second. We will also have in R75.40 new tools to give us visibility into our log data, into what's actually going on our security data, and we're going to have a new cutting-edge unified secure operating system. So this is, as you can see, a pretty big deal. A lot of new things, a lot of new infrastructure in a new release. that I think will allow us to keep our edge in security. So let me jump right in and use one or two slides to speak about each one of these elements. And during the next 2 days, for those of you who are participating here in the CheckPoint experience in Orlando, you'll be able to hear much more in depth about each one of these innovations and actually meet the developers, meet the people, and answer any question and get the in-depth knowledge and the first ability to understand what's in all these technologies. So first, let's talk a little bit about how do we stay protected about the new dynamic threat landscape. So we're seeing that malware that's infecting us in the form of viruses, in the form of bots, is becoming more and more sophisticated. And we're introducing today 2 new blades, or actually 1 new blade and 1 improved blade. The first one is our new anti-bot software blade. I believe that's the first and only actually fully integrated, fully powered software blade or any solution that's well integrated into our security gateways to fight these bots. And bots today represent the most dynamic, the most advanced route to all new attacks. So we're having the new anti-bot software blade. And when we have an enhanced antivirus software blade, both of them are powered and are connected to our threat cloud and are participating in this real-time network and receive real-time updates and consult about each new threat with our cloud service. And so let's speak a little bit about the anti-bot. I've already mentioned bots are these small agents that we accidentally put on our computers. They usually do a much better job than simple viruses to hide themselves. We can get them by downloading the wrong software, by many bugs that exist, through USB that we get into the company, many different ways. But the main challenge with bots is not just that they are a more sophisticated kind of virus. The most challenging part with these bots is that they communicate with their operator, and they basically can do everything that their operator will tell them, from sending our secret data to finding their way around the company, to attacking our own infrastructure, destroying it, or used to do simple things like send spam and attack other people's infrastructure. So bots have been the source of many of the bad things that we've seen in the internet. The first element that we have with our anti-bot software blade is a multi-tier discovery technology. That's based on identifying the operators. As I mentioned, we have a database of over 250 million resources that we map to ones that have bot operators in them. But it's not enough. We also know how to identify the bot protocol. More and more of this, but we are learning very quickly to understand our communication protocol. And by the way, here is a method when our threat cloud will identify a new threat. We will see a bot communication protocol communicating with a new IP address that we didn't know about. Immediately, we can notify the rest of the world. Here is a bot command and control, a new bot command and control server, and whether it's using the same protocols, different protocols, we can block that attacks for millions of other sites. And we also know how to detect a lot of strange behaviors that bots are using. It can be things like anomalies like finding their domain server. This is not a security threat in behavior, but if we find the patterns of searching for the bot operator domain name, we can identify that the client is not your web browser, but actually a bot client. So we are discovering the bot. Once we discover the bot, we know immediately how to stop the traffic to its remote operators, and we can very quickly and very effectively stop the potential damages. No information will be leaked, and the bot will not get commands to do other things we don't want it to do. And we will give the security administrator a lot of forensic tools to understand first what was this bot attempting to do. Many people tell us, well, it's not doing anything bad. We show them the files that were attempted to be sent by the bot, and they immediately say, yeah, you know what, it's not just communicating with someone remote. Here is the confidential files that were about to be sent to that bot. And of course, we give all the information about the specific machines that were infected in that bot to every administrator, so you can go back to the relevant PC and clean it up. And I think you've seen in the early statistics that the research shows that 82% of enterprises have bot infection event. During the last year, we've been testing, improving, and finishing this product. We've installed it in several dozen organizations around the world, from universities to huge government agencies, and of course to many enterprises around the world. And I don't know if it's good or bad, but in 100% of the cases we found bots inside the networks. There is no single organization that we didn't install that software, and within hours we found out that there's at least one machine infected in the bot that's part of the bigger bot network. So this is not a theoretical risk. This is not something you install and say, in the next 3 years it will sure find something, maybe not. This is something that at least our experience shows that reveals bots in 100% of the cases. So this is the new anti-bot software blade. We've greatly enhanced the antivirus software blade by using the threat cloud. By using the threat cloud, we don't need to send huge files with new signatures and new types of viruses that will completely take all our memory and all our disk space and will take too much bandwidth. We actually can consult on any new type of file or any file that we see immediately with the cloud. And the result of that is that we now have in our database 300 times more signatures. We have now 4.5 million signatures of malware files that we can immediately stop. We have more than 300,000 sites that are used to distribute malware and send viruses around the world. And all of that is not updated once a day or once every 4 hours. It's constantly updated at real time. When we see a new file, we send a request for the cloud, and the cloud will tell us this is good, this is bad, and we know how to process it. And so this is the new methods to fight new security attacks. I think it's definitely taking a big step ahead in the effectiveness of security technology in the network and in the gateway. And I mentioned the challenge of not being able to see the forest for the trees. Tons of log records, millions of log records, being switched from today's file to yesterday's file. How do we search about it? And what I'd like to show now in one slide, even though I'm sure that every security administrator here would love to play with that tool, the new smart log, that replaces our old log viewer. It's very hard for me to say goodbye to the old log viewer. I wrote it 19 years ago, and for many years it was a great tool, but it's time to go to the next generation, and this is not something that's 20% better, 30% better, not even twice as better. This is a completely new generation of security intelligence. And simple Google-like searches, we will type on the search bar. I'm showing here a very simple example, P2P, peer-to-peer. In the old times, what we've got is search for today files. It will take a few minutes, and we'll get a few records. And of course, the searching was check which column you want, check which type of service. It would be 5-6 clicks, and then waiting a few minutes, and then a few tens of millions of records, we will find the right one. Look at the difference here. We just type P2P, and it can be anything. Username on the search bar. In less than a second, half a second, we've searched through 500 million log records. By the way, this is not only from today or yesterday. This can go to all our stored log files, the old log files, all the archived log files, and we immediately see the data. So what you can see here in this example, in this case, we've seen 3 incidents of peer-to-peer networks. 2 were blocked by the gateway, BitTorrent and GeoTorrents. Both are kind of file sharing torrent software, and rightfully so, they were blocked by our application control technology. The third one, the P2P radio, this is questionable, and every organization can decide whether they want to block it or not, but this is actually a more valid network of distributed radio services. It gets legal content, content with the right copyright. So there are some security risks in the P2P radio, but it's not like a pirate network used mainly for bad things. And you can see right away, and of course you get here many more reports. You can see top actions, top users. You can continue and see not just these 3. Actually, you can see on the screenshot it shows 50 incidents. We just show here 50. And you can make actually very sophisticated queries. You can write P2P Gil, and immediately you get all the peer-to-peer connections by Gil. Or peer-to-peer last week, and we get only the incident from last week. It's a very, very nice search engine. And again, just like the good search engines we know today on the internet, it works in split seconds. No waiting of minutes, hours, overnight, just like we are used on our most modern internet infrastructure. So this is a great tool, and with great sadness I will leave my old log viewer aside and welcome this new smart log tool. Finally, let me speak about the challenge of security consolidation and to build a security foundation. And I mentioned that at the beginning is the major building block of effective security infrastructure, consolidation, simplicity, and of course that's not something that's done in one step or in one product announcement. So let me speak about what we've done on that so far and what we plan to do or what we're doing starting now. So we started a lot of efforts on security consolidation. If many other places and many other vendors are offering point products from multiple vendors, from the same vendors, but basically point products that are complicated, don't always work together, it requires separate management and configuration. We came with our software blades strategy about 3 years ago. I think everybody liked the idea. 3 years later, I'm very glad to report that it's actually working. We are seeing that almost all customers are using multiple software blades like our IPS, that before IPS were isolated systems, expensive, separate. We now have more than 50% of new systems that actually use and activate IPS. I mean, they are available to everyone, but they're being used by the majority of customers today. I believe that on modern systems that we have today, people that have upgraded, the average software blades used today is 3, 4, and it's growing all the time. So we actually have very, very good traction for software blades, and it became an important part of our business on any measure. So that's one element, and we've already seen today that we introduced several new blades and updated several blades. The second element, something we've been doing for many, many years, but with the software blades, with the growth, we keep doing not dispersed management, different management consoles, different system, no coordination with limited visibility, unified management, and you can see that even though we pioneered that idea 19 years ago, there's still a lot that can be done even in our own environment, and even smart log is a good example. Smart log, by the way, displays the log from all the different software blades. So when you write something, you see all the different activities, not just based on one security system. So that's another element in security consolidation, and we are moving on with that. And the next one is with the way we deliver security, with our security appliances. So historically at CheckPoint, we had the Pyro 1 appliance line, we have the UTM-1 appliance line, we used to have the Nokia IP appliance line, we still do now, it's not Nokia anymore, it's the IP appliance line. So we started to have multiple lines of appliances, started to overlap, starting to be confusion. Late in 2011, we introduced the 2012 model, and now we have one updated, modern, serious, and very powerful series of appliances from the 2200 at the bottom. An amazing entry-level appliance, the exact same architecture, the exact same software, scaling all the way to the 21400 with security acceleration, and to the 61000, that's the world's fastest security system, running multiple software blades at unbelievable and amazing speeds, and you can see them here on our performance level. So we've done a lot to consolidate the hardware, and now, today, what I'd like to announce is another step and that's the unification of our operating systems. Up to now, we had a very good and supporting audience for the IPSO secure operating system, originally from Nokia, a great audience for the secure platform, secure operating system, CheckPoint, and today we're finally integrating the two and creating the next generation secure operating system, unified secure operating system, codenamed Gaia, and not just codenamed, that's how we call it now when we launch it to the market. Gaia is basically the best of IPSO and the secure platform with a lot more things. So it's not just the best, it's also fully integrated with IPv6. It's a fully 64-bit operating system, so we can take advantage of performance advantages of 64-bit systems, as well as much more capacity. Capacity to store more connections in our connection tables and so on. It has a very rich and great local web UI for the provisioning and management. It has many, many more things like automatic software updates, the full role-based administration for every appliance, the ability to replicate a gateway very quickly within minutes, and of course supports for all the dynamic routing protocols, 5 times more in some cases, 6 times more multicasting protocols, load balancing protocols, both VRRP and Secure Excel, virtualization, and all with a single image. So it's a very, very powerful operating system that I'm sure that you'd all like to see and start using. And that, in addition to all the other features of R75.40, there's much more in that release. And again, in my part at least, I can't go through all of them, and many features here deserve a slide, many others deserve a full presentation about the new technology, but you can see just some of them. IPsec VPN for mobile devices, for iOS, Apple, iPhone, and iPad, and soon also on Android. A small feature, but a feature that I think everybody loves is the rule hit count. When you look at the rule base, you immediately see how much was that rule used, is it effective? Everybody loves it. It shows us how effective it is, and it also allows us to clean up unused rules that we don't need. And there's more features to every software blade. So if we're talking about the DLP, we can automatically put watermarks on documents leaving the organization. So if somebody gets them by accident or not by accident, they'll know that this is who that information belongs to. And by the way, some of these watermarks are hidden watermarks. So if somebody continues to distribute the document, we can trace the source of the document and know how it was done. And a lot of other things, bandwidth control for applications inside, and so on and so forth. I won't go through the entire list, but many, many of the things you've been asking us, we're taking that very seriously. We've worked on that, and we've done more than 100 more features based on your request in our 75.40. So let me wrap up this whole thing. I think what we are announcing today is something very, very exciting. Our 75.40 is an amazing release, addressing all the key issues in security. If you're talking about the need to look at security and more than just technology, we are providing here all the tools and all the concepts to actually implement the 3D security with policy, people, and enforcement combined and working together. That's a great platform for that. If you're talking about getting intelligence and fighting new threats, Threat Cloud can be, and I hope it is, one of the biggest innovations in the security space, an innovation that comes once a decade, and I hope that will make Threat Cloud the main resource for internet security for the next decade. If we're talking about fighting in real time with the latest threats, our new software blades, the anti-bots and the antivirus are addressing that head-on, and of course using the Threat Cloud. And we will continuing the consolidation, the simplicity, and the manageability of the systems with the new Smart Log, and of course with Gaia, that I think it's something we've been working on for the last 3.5 years, and finally you can see delight and goes to everyone's environment. So I think with the people at CheckPoint worked very hard, and I hope that we worked very, very hard to drive security to the next level and to make you, our customers, happy and satisfy your existing and future security needs. So thank you very much. I'm really, really happy with the new release. It's available now. And once again, thank you for being here today. Thank you for being here today with me, and thank you for being on the call for everyone that's listening to us on the webcast. Thank you very much.